Hi, everyone. Doc T here. Welcome back to the Horses Advocate podcast, or if you're new here, welcome. I appreciate you spending some time here, passing the mundane hours where your brain is thirsting for knowledge and you're overwhelmed with places to go. I'm so grateful that you decided to pick the Horses Advocate podcast, whether it's on YouTube or on your favorite podcast device. I am so grateful that you are reaching out to find more information about horses. I'm heading into 2024, doing what I've been doing for over 50 years, over 41 years, floating teeth. And there are little milestones along the way. And what I find fascinating is I looked at a spreadsheet of all my podcasts. I think this is number 115. And I looked at the types of podcasts or the types of subjects I have. And a lot of it is on metabolism and nutrition. And it's just exciting for me to get this information out to everybody because it's so new. It's constantly evolving and more information. And this information is coming out. I find it important to tell people. There are other subjects I like to cover. I had a gal talking about her barn that she's just built and how she looked on the website to get some information. And I said, but did you get on my website to look at ventilation or stall doors or lighting or any of the other subjects that I cover over there? And she didn't know. And the push in 2024 is to let everybody know that I have so much more information out there than what you think I have. I mean, it's just 50 plus years of working with horses is a vault of observations. But not the least of it is floating teeth. And I don't want to bore you to tears. I think everybody who comes on this podcast thinks they know what horses' teeth are and what kind of prevention and maintenance that they need. But I just talked to a new client on the phone today who was setting up an appointment, and he asked, well, do you ever see the horse actually show relief after floating? And I was stunned because that's the number one reason I float teeth is because the horse shows such relief. Whether they're wimps or tough guys, they actually are allowed to say, oh, thank you. It just happened earlier this week. I went to see a horse that had been a little over a year since I'd seen it. And it's a very old horse and half the teeth are gone. And the horse is showing a little bit of difficulty chewing, which is expected. And when I got there, the eyeballs came out of the sockets and the horse went to the back of the stall and said, I don't think I want to be here with you. I think this is going to be bad. And I said to the horse, you know, I've been doing your teeth for years now. Why can't you remember me? And of course he says, well, I'm old and my memory's not that good. So I just basically said, okay, you know, let's go in there and start getting these teeth filed down. Let's just at least check to see if you have any problems. Well, checking the horse, he didn't like that at all. So then I just said, okay, I've got some sharp spots I want to take down. There weren't that many. Again, he has half his teeth. And I went in there and started touching up some of the spots, and the horse completely changed attitude, just was so grateful. The head was hanging down. I've got a picture of me someplace. Maybe I'll put that in this podcast. So if you're watching on YouTube, you can see the picture of this particular horse with its nose in my chest, just resting, saying, oh my gosh, thank you. And it wasn't that sharp a mouth. Most horses would have been okay. But as the owner said, yeah, I knew something was happening and you started to have some difficulty. And each horse has a threshold of pain. I've gone over in my podcast in the past what a threshold of pain really is. So here it is, 41 years in May of 2024 since I put my hand in a horse's mouth for the first time. And I got to tell you, it's still exciting. It's still fun to help a horse and to show the people that the horse really needed some help. So this week, I'm floating my 80,000th horse. It should happen tomorrow. And I'm not going to have a huge celebration. I'll probably take a picture of the horse. Maybe I'll have a hold up a piece of paper that says 80,000 on it. And if I do that, I'll put a picture of that one on here. So if you're watching this on YouTube, you can see that horse. But 80,000 horses is quite a lot. It's a miracle, actually, when you think about it. So a lot of people ask me, really, Doc, are you sure it's 80,000? So I started floating teeth in 1983. And I have a spreadsheet here. I know you can't see this because it's too fine, but I have a spreadsheet which I amend every day that I work. So from 1983 to about 1997, 1998, I basically guess. There's no doubt about it. I guess how many horses I did, and I may be high, I may be low, I don't know. But I started floating teeth full time in 1998, and I have accurate records back to that point, maybe year 2000. And I know exactly how many I floated. So I feel I underestimated all the years before that. I also included all the horses that have helped other people, whether it's Melissa, and y'all out there who know Melissa, she's with me 13 years and has floated teeth all over the country. And she is just a spectacular tooth floater and horse person. And she gives me all the credit. And I say, no, it's not me. You were gifted. But whatever the deal is, she started in 2009. And until 2014, I went in every mouth that she had done to assess her work and make sure she's okay before I forcibly kicked her out of the nest, said, you're on your own. I've also helped a lot of students learn how to float teeth. And I've stuck my hand in so many horses. And sticking my hand in, that's me orally palpating the mouth. I don't usually use my eyes. I think that they can be deceptive. They don't give you all the information, not as much as what my fingertips do. I can feel the sharp points that the horse feels. I can smell the bad smells. I can feel the defects. I can feel the gum line that's getting gushy, a little infection. I can feel the fractured teeth. I can hear the fractured teeth as I float over them. It's so far, my fingers have not let me down. And I'm not doing the automatic sedation because, first, sedation doesn't really work in horses. They actually need pain medication, which is a point I've made in the past several podcasts, going all the way back to, I think, podcast 1. I talked about pain medication in horses. And I get feedback from the horse. Hey, it hurts there. Oh, you found that spot. Oh, thank you. Gratefulness. It's just fascinating to see the paradigm shift in these horses as they come to me. So I palpate the horse 2, 3, 4, 5 times every float. So these are the number of floats I've done. And you have to multiply this number by at least 2, if not 3, 4, or 5, to figure out how many times my hand has been inside a horse's mouth. And here we are, basically at 80,000 floats that I've done with people. But if I cut out all those that I've touched, it's roughly 65,000. So if you are listening to this podcast or watching it on YouTube, and you sit there and say, no way you've done 80,000, I will capitulate that I've done 65,000 and helped others. I've been wrong in my first estimate. That's fine. But if you look at Malcolm Gladwell's book, Outliers, where he postulates that to become really good at anything, you have to do something at least 10,000 times. And several other authors have talked about this. 10,000 times puts you from learning to becoming a master at this. And I've certainly surpassed that. I can walk up to almost any horse and assess them and figure out what's going on. It just happened this week. Doc, you did this horse in November and you took that fractured tooth out and he's doing great. It was a miracle work, but I'm now starting to smell again. And I go back and sure enough, the mirror image tooth had fractured and I just medicated him, took the pain away because it's kind of painful from the inflammation that was around the tooth. And I was able to put the forceps on it alone, nobody else helping me, just the medications. And the horse trusted me, and I was able to get that piece out. And I'll throw that picture up too of how big that tooth was, that section. It was 1 inch by 1 inch, which is a 25 by 25 millimeter square by about a 1/4 inch thick, which would be about, I don't know, 7 millimeters thick. And that's a pretty good sized tooth. And I took that out, and the horse was so grateful, was so happy that that fractured tooth was gone. But then at the same farm, I had another horse that I hadn't seen in a year, been leased out and come back. And the owner was very concerned because the horse was having some problems. They identified some arthritis in the neck, and they thought that they want to rule out the teeth. So they hired another veterinarian to come out, and they did their exam, and they recommended 4 teeth needed enamel restoration. I'm not too sure what that means, but the horse would have to go to the clinic. I assume would be heavily medicated, and some of the chips that this horse had in its teeth would be restored with some sort of filling epoxy. And, so the teeth would be like movie star perfect. And the owner said, I don't think so. she knows the difference, and then hired me to come out, and the horse just needed good floating. And gosh, I was only halfway through, and the horse is like, whoa, this is so much better. And then I went to a spot that I knew was bothering the horse up near where the chipped tooth was. And the horse visibly was so relieved, just said, oh my gosh, thank you. So I still believe after all these years that the removal of pain is the purpose of floating teeth. And it's not to identify all these pathologies. But I stand way outside the box of thinking of my colleagues. What I mean by that is I was given a email notification from the American Veterinary Medical Association to announce that February is Pet Dental Health Month. And, it blows me away, because if the American Veterinary Medical Association represents all animals that veterinarians see, including turtles, fish, whatever, they are actually, sorry, AVMA, I'm just calling it like I see it, a movement to help maintain and improve the income of veterinarians. So they put on a national campaign to get pet owners, i.e. dogs and cats. They don't say that, because if you have a turtle or, a hamster or some other small fuzzy animal that's a pet of yours, you bring them to the small animal vet too, where you can discuss dentistry in some of these animals. And the veterinarian is going to look and going to tell you your dog or cat needs this, 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 and this. And I'll never forget, we sent our little dog in to a veterinarian who we trusted, and he extracted like 6 teeth. The dog was like, I don't know, 20 years old. And yeah, had bad breath, and yeah, the teeth were loose, but the dog was 20 years old, and he yanked out all the teeth, and that was not in the best interest of the dog. What was in the best interest of the dog is if we could have gone back to when it was young and fed it correctly. But, we vets only know what we're taught, and what we're taught was how to fix things. And so when our dogs and cats and horses get sick, we know how to fix them, but no one out there is trying to teach us how to prevent. And I'm not going to get the Pet Dental Health Month toolkit, which has, let's see, a flyer, a handout, and a brochure. I don't know what the 3 differences are. Dental care videos, home dental care for your pet, and pet dental cleanings, what to expect, and how to work on the social media and website content. It's got things that you can plug in there. And you have publicity tools and talking points for media interviews, and stress-free ways to celebrate National Pet Dental Health Month, which means a lot of veterinarians say, look, they're they're still coming through my door fast and furious. When do I have time to promote something like this? So it's all about getting people into the small animal clinic to get their dog's teeth and cat's teeth cleaned and taken care of. Well, the trickle down effect of that is some people ask me if their horse's teeth need cleaning. And that's just like, it's a hoot, it's kind of funny. But I answer them seriously and tell them that horse teeth are completely different than human and dog and cat and shark and snake and every other tooth you might want to imagine. Bear teeth, they're horse teeth, and they continually erupt throughout life. And that's news to so many people. So still, after 80,000 floats, you'd think that I'd have so many people out there understanding what equine dentistry is, and I don't. And I'm fighting an uphill battle against my colleagues who say that you need to be a veterinarian to do this because you need to drug the horse, you need to identify pathologies, and you need to know how to correct the pathologies. And I stand up and I talk back to them and say, I've seen some, the quality of the practitioner working on the teeth is not associated with DVM degree. So I'm not afraid of having a non-veterinarian come in and compete against me, because if they're successful, they're either lying or they're doing a great job. If they're doing a great job, it will inspire me to do better. And if they're lying, they won't last long and they'll fade away. Already this month, I've had 2 people come back to me after 2.5 years of being away. And I have another one who just contacted me today, and it's coming up on 3 years since they last used me. Now, 2 of the cases, they had personal problems in their family. I get it. But the other 2, who knows? They try some other people and they come back to me. I've had plenty of people do that. Why? Because I think most horse owners want somebody who can connect with their horses, who can relate to them, earn their trust, and see a response of gratefulness when we're done. And that's just the way I feel after all these floats. I love that part. And if you automatically drug the horse, there's no connection. The horse is drugged, and you should be able to work with them. But a lot of them continue to fight because you never made the connection, and the medications you use don't actually kill the pain. So a lot of veterinarians are catching on to that, and they're administering painkillers with their sedatives. So now the horse is standing better, and that helps them get the job done. I got to admit, I'm only one man. I can only do, several thousand horses a year. I can't do tens of thousands of horses a year. It just isn't going to happen. And there's lots of horses out there. So this whole idea of Pet Dental Month is just bugging me, especially on the anniversary of my 80,000th float, because if I were doing something wrong, how could I have been doing it this way for so long and continue to grow my practice? How could it be that so many people appreciate what I do? Yes, I've lost clients. I don't know where they went. They disappear. Some get bamboozled by the automatic drugging and the, hey, look at this. You're going to need enamel restorations. So it's turbulent waters out there. But this short podcast is just me saying to every one of you who's listening that we're here for the horse. We're not here for ourselves to use you. We're here because of you. We're grateful for you, the horse owner. And we should be doing everything we can to make sure that that bond is sacred. And I think there's a lot of people out there who aren't sure of themselves. They don't feel confident. They want to feel significant, and they'll do it any way they can. And I'm not going to fall for it. So with my credentials of time, degree, and whatever, I I have all the abilities to change my way of floating teeth to automatic medication, cranking the mouth open with a speculum, shining a light in there, getting a scope in there, and identifying pathologies, and collecting more money from y'all, doing some enamel restorations, or if there's a fracture, taking a bunch of x-rays. You don't have to take x-rays. The tooth's fractured. They're all the same. If there's a abscess going in there, okay. My cry to my profession is, please, is there somebody out there who's got the ability and the time and the resources to do really good research on teeth? And I need to clear up some basic things. For instance, if we remove sharp enamel points inside the horse's mouth and allow the tongue and the jaw to move without any hesitation from pain, will this clear up most of the pathologies that we see? That's one, like periodontal disease. If we raise horses on a diet that's free of excess sugars, i.e. grains, and worse, the lectins of the outer shells of proteins that are found in wheat middlings, rice hulls, flax seeds, and all these other seeds that we're throwing in the horse. If we could get a control group and raise them alongside another group that's being fed all these inflammatory foods, would we see a reduction in dental caries? Would we see from that a reduction in cheek tooth fractures? Would we see a reduction in equine odontoclastic tooth resorption and hypercementosis, which everyone calls EOTRH? These are basic questions that you as a horse owner are affected by 99% of the time. If we didn't have EOTRH, which we didn't in the 1980s, if we didn't have cheek tooth fractures, which were virtually non-existent back then, and dental caries, if all we had were sharp enamel points that with some rasping that just took away the pain and allowed the tongue and the jaw to move freely, would we have happier, more comfortable horses? If we understood and recognized the excess fat that lays on the bars of the teeth, the bars of the mouth in front of the first bottom cheek teeth, and we recognize that as a source of pain in some horses, would that make a difference in how we do the so-called bit seat or rounding of the first bottom cheek teeth? These questions, I don't think will ever be answered. I don't think there's anybody out there willing to put in the time and the money that it would take to watch horses from birth through 30 years of age. It's just not going to happen. Even if we took a small subset of that and we said only geldings, only between the age of 10 and 15, and, you know, have never been fed grain or have been fed grain. I mean, we could partition this off any way we wanted to and try to get some correlations. But I think that's what we'll all get, is correlations and very little causations. The thrust of this podcast message is 80,000 floats is not bragging rights. I'm not trying to claim that I've done more horses' teeth than anybody out there, or I'm in the top 1%, whatever you guys want to label it as. That's not my point of this podcast. The point of this podcast is mostly to understand that anecdotal evidence, while not being evidence-based, in the sheer numbers that I've done, have come to a lot of good correlations that either are solid based on numbers or have raised enough important questions to question what is being said otherwise. So I have always said that removing the sharp points allows the tongue and the jaw to move without restrictions from pain. And from that helps the health of the mouth. I've also encouraged people to stop feeding grain because I think that upsets the biome of the mouth. And with the altered microbiome that's there, those bacteria will start to cause decay and will start the splitting of the tooth into pieces. I don't think there's anybody who's going to question that. There's evidence now coming out that shows that. I had a podcast on that in dental caries in horses. So let's stop trying to fix problems and let's start preventing. Let's start looking at horses' teeth as part of the gut system that needs a good, solid, strong microbiome. And those that are being asked to perform need to be pain-free so that when you place the bit in the mouth, which is a space-occupying mass, it allows the tongue to feel safe in the mouth without being squished back against sharp points from the space-occupying mass called the bit. And for all of those of you out there who believe that bits are evil, there is one simple fact, that it's probably the pain that's being caused by the bit against the soft tissues, coupled with a rider's hands that are probably a little bit too much in the mouth. And for the safety of a lot of riders, the bit is important. But when you buy a bit and put the bit in the horse's mouth, I think it's incumbent on everyone who uses the bit to make sure that the teeth have been smoothed out so no sharp edges exist that will hurt the tongue or any other soft tissues in the mouth. And yet people will buy bits and never stick anything in the mouth to clear it up. And no, rasping the first couple upper cheek teeth is not going to cut it. Every tooth has to be addressed, with the bottom lower cheek teeth probably being the most important as far as pain response, quickly followed by both last upper cheek teeth digging into the cheek, and in many horses, the first lower cheek teeth being caught and trapping soft tissue there. Those are the three that if we could just address those three areas, would probably be able to help a lot of horses. So, okay, I think I've bored you enough on this. I think 80,000 floats is a nice milestone. October of 2021, I did a podcast called 75,000. That's pretty incredible. And I'm not really, I'm slowed up since, from when I was really gun-ho in the 1998 to 2008. I mean, there's one season I did 3,940 floats in 1 year. That's 60 shy of 4,000 floats in a year. 4,000 floats, if you take 4,000 divided by 365, that's like what, 12, 13 a day, every day of the year, Christmas included. That was pretty good. And I would have broke 4,000, except that was the year we had herpes virus down here in Wellington. It shut down the whole showgrounds. And that was the end of that. But I would have exceeded 4,000 that year. I was strong, I was crazy, and I didn't stop. I worked every day. Now that many years have passed, let's see, that was 2006. Now it's 2024. I do a lot less because I can. But I wish I could train more. And it's frustrating because people call me up and they say, yeah, I'd like to try that. Then I say, well, you're not a vet, so you can go back to your state with all this information. But if you start to advertise, this state may come down on you and give you a cease and desist order. I think the laws in the United States need to change, knowing full well, everybody out there listening to this knows a farrier can walk in and adjust the angles of the feet and prescribe shoes to fix problems in a lame horse. And they don't need a veterinarian to do that. Body workers can come in, chiropractics can come in, acupuncturists can come in, a massage therapist can come in, PEMF therapists can come in. They can all diagnose and start treating using their implements. And it's rare that anybody comes down on them. But boy, somebody comes in with a float in a bucket, and not only are they considered stealing from veterinary practice, but they're also thrown under the bus because they're only using hand floats and horsemanship techniques, which have served me so well for all these years. And yet no vet is coming to me and saying, hey, I'd like to learn how to do this. I'd like to be able to offer my clients not just power floats and all these fancy techniques, but if they're serious about maintaining their horse's teeth, but they don't want all this fancy stuff going on, I'd be happy to float their teeth by hand and do the best job I can. But everyone sits in a silo and says, no, I don't want to do it. And I'm just as guilty. There's no way I'm going to buy power tools and start doing fillings and other restorations in the mouth. To me, it's silly. I've even seen horses with tooth root abscesses that, if given enough time, and this could be 2 years, the sinuses dry up, tooth repairs itself, and everything's fine. I've seen that. So why put a horse through it? You know, yeah, there's a lot of snot coming out, but just be patient. It'll take care of itself. But that's not fixing. That's not earning a living, is it? So that's it. I don't have anything else to say about this. Happy 80,000th, Doc T. And I'm sure you're all going to send me best wishes for that. And that's great. But no need, because why don't you wait till 100,000 and then we'll have a bigger celebration. All right, this is Doc T. I'll talk to you later. Thanks. Bye. Hey, everyone. Doc T here. Thank you for listening to my content. Would you do me a huge favor? Would you please subscribe, comment, like, thumbs up, and give a star review? However it's presented to you, I want you to do that. There's 2 reasons. The first, of course, is to improve this product. This way I know what you like, what you don't like, what I can improve upon, what topics you want me to cover. But more importantly, it's also going to help others find me. And by doing that, you are now engaged in this mission of helping horses thrive in a human world. By you helping, we can reach others. And that I would be so grateful for. And remember, go to thehorsesadvocate.com for updates on this information. Thehorsesadvocate.com. And again, thank you so much for being here. Doc T out.